Sleep 2 Business Genius, Business History, Fact number 15 of 107-minute read. Half the world's trade, one company. On the last day of the year 1600, Queen Elizabeth I signed a charter granting a group of London merchants the exclusive right to trade with Asia. It was the birth of the East India Company, and the beginning of something the world had never seen before. By Sleep to Business Genius, Business History, England and Global, founded 1600. An English galleon under full sail, bearing the East India Company's charter eastward, the vessel of a commercial enterprise that would grow to control half of all world trade. Let your breathing slow. Let the silence deepen. And consider what it means for a company to become larger than most countries. The East India Company began modestly. A group of 218 London merchants, pooling £68,000 of capital, petitioning the Queen for a trading monopoly with Asia. Their immediate concern was practical and commercial. The spice trade, dominated by the Dutch, was extraordinarily profitable, and English merchants wanted a share. What they created over the next 2.5 centuries was something without precedent in human history, a private commercial enterprise that raised armies, fought wars, administered territories, levied taxes, issued currency, and at its peak governed a population of 200 million people. The East India Company was not just a company. It was, effectively, a state. The East India Company collapsed the distinction between commerce and empire. It was incorporated as a trading venture and ended up governing a subcontinent. No entity before or since has demonstrated more starkly what concentrated commercial power, backed by military force, can become. The Charter and the Monopoly. London, December 31, 1600, the founding moment. The Royal Charter granted the East India Company a 15-year monopoly on all English trade east of the Cape of Good Hope. In exchange, the company paid import duties to the Crown and provided a source of revenue and strategic leverage for the English state. It was a partnership of convenience. The merchants got protection and monopoly rights, the Crown got commercial intelligence and a share of the profits without risking Crown funds. The early decades were focused on trade. The company established factories, fortified trading posts, at Surat in India, and later at Madras, Bombay, and Calcutta. It traded in spices, textiles, indigo, saltpetre, and eventually tea, which would become one of the defining commodities of the 18th century. The profits were extraordinary, and investors who had bought in early made fortunes. The scale of the company. At its peak in the early 19th century, the East India Company's army was twice the size of the British Army. It governed roughly 60 million people in India directly and influenced the lives of hundreds of millions more. Its share of global trade at various points has been estimated at between 50% and 75% of all commerce flowing between Europe and Asia. It was, by any measure, the most powerful commercial organization in history. Company to empire. The transformation from trading company to territorial power happened gradually, driven by the logic of commercial protection. To secure its trading posts, the company needed military capacity. To protect its military capacity, it needed revenue. To generate revenue, it needed to control territory. Each step followed from the last, and by the mid-18th century the company was fighting wars, signing treaties, and collecting taxes across vast areas of India. The Battle of Plassey in 1757, in which the company's forces under Robert Clive defeated the Nawab of Bengal, is the moment usually identified as the point of no return. After Plassey, the company was no longer just a trader with military capability. It was a colonial power with commercial interests. Bengal's enormous tax revenues flowed into company coffers, funding further expansion and generating the wealth that made 18th-century Britain the richest country on earth. The company was eventually nationalized in 1858, following the Indian Rebellion of 1857, and the British Crown assumed direct control of India. The company itself was wound up in 1874. But its legacy, the fusion of commercial and political power, the extraction of colonial wealth, the infrastructure of empire, shaped the modern world in ways that are still being reckoned with. A charter, a ship, a trade monopoly, and 2.5 centuries later, an empire. Tags: East India Company, British Empire, Colonial Trade, Queen Elizabeth I, Business History, Corporate History, India, Sleep Learning, Economic History. Sleep to Business Genius weaves 100 fascinating business history facts into soothing, story-driven narratives. This is fact number 15 of 100. Part of 100 Facts About Business to Fall Asleep To, available as a full narrated video on YouTube.